If you didn't know this about me already, I love Star Wars. So today I'm devoting the whole video to Star Wars. If you don't want to listen to a guy talking about Star Wars, then turn down the volume and just watch me draw, or wait until the next video, because that is what I'm doing this time. No art advice, no drawing tips, just Star Wars for the next 15-20 minutes.
I have a very bad feeling about this.
Okay, so I guess I should address the monsters, or the ship monsters, Star Wars ship monsters. And this is just a silly, stupid little thing I've been doing lately. And it started with a doodle. I was drawing with my kids, and I started messing around. I was drawing a TIE fighter, and I started replacing the structure, like the beams and the structure of it, with bones. I don't know why, but then I thought, well, what if the whole thing was organic? What if the thing was a monster? And I gave the TIE fighter webbed wings, and I made him like a one-eyed ball monster in the middle. And the kids just loved it. They're like, "Oh, do the next one, Daddy." And these were just crude little like ink drawings, just messing around. And so I did a TIE fighter. I did the Millennium Falcon and an X-wing, and I thought, oh, these are fun. I'm actually gonna draw these up nice. And so I've been doing a lot of pen and ink lately, and I thought it'd be good to switch up my tools a little bit and render with the pencil. And so that's what I'm doing these with. And I've been slammed lately with work, tight deadlines, lots of projects overlapping, and it's been grating on me. And so I have to take 15-30 minutes every day just to do something that has no like stakes attached to it. That's just just screwing around basically. And so that's what these are. Is I'm just messing around and drawing the ships of Star Wars as if they were the monsters, and for no rhyme or reason. So Star Wars, my love affair with Star Wars began when I was probably 6 years old, and Return of the Jedi came out in 1983, and in the summer of 1983. And I remember we went to the Dollar Theater and saw it. I remember my dad took me to Return of the Jedi at the Dollar Theater, and it blew my mind. Okay, at 6, you haven't seen him. You haven't seen much yet, but I was watching Lone Ranger on the TV, reruns of Lone Ranger, reruns of the old Batman show, and there's another Western. So, Zorro. I liked Zorro a lot too, and they would play these reruns, and that's what I was into. And so I went to the movie to see Return of the Jedi, and I was just blown away. I thought it was the craziest thing, the coolest thing ever. And so that's where it began. And I remember I started getting Star Wars toys for like Christmas and stuff, and I didn't have a ton of Star Wars toys. For me, playtime, like my main jam as far as toys are concerned was Lego. And then maybe a little bit of I played a lot with He-Man, with Masters of the Universe, and so those were my two favorite toys. And then I had a bunch of plastic dinosaurs, like the big plastic dinosaurs that you could like shove things down into their throat, and they were like hollow. So those were my main toys. But then Star Wars came along. I did have a handful of Star Wars figures, and I played with them. But mainly for me, Star Wars was something that I acted out in person, not something that I played with action figures. And so I remember my favorite scene was the opening one, where they infiltrate Jabba's palace, and Luke has to fight the Rancor monster. before that, the bounty hunter comes in, and spoiler alert, it's Princess Leia, and Han Solo is he's frozen. Now I was somewhat aware of the first two movies, and I may had even seen. I don't think I'd seen all of the first Star Wars movie yet. This was. I don't think we even had a VCR yet. I know my grandparents had a VCR, so we couldn't quite watch. I couldn't just pop in Star Wars and watch it. You had to see them in the movie theater, or you had to know someone who had a VCR, and so I remember maybe seeing Star Wars around sometime after I saw Return of the Jedi, and in my little 6 and 7 year old brain, I was piecing the stories together, and I didn't understand everything, but I just knew it was fun and exciting. One of the things I remembered, I thought the Death Star in Return of the Jedi was the remnants of the Death Star from the first from A New Hope. That they blew it up, but they didn't destroy it. They just kind of blew out one side of it, and so they were still working on it, trying to repair it. Not that they were building a whole new Death Star. And I didn't see Empire Strikes Back for a long time. I'm not sure what. I can't even remember seeing Empire Strikes Back for the first time. But of the three movies, it's the one that I've seen the most. I don't know, over 100 times I've watched that film. And I would say it's my favorite of the three, though I have such a nostalgic association with Return of the Jedi, because that was the one I actually saw in the movie theater. Okay, so a couple of years after I saw Return of the Jedi, my dad came home with the Art of Return of the Jedi book, and he had picked it up from a thrift store, I think, or a used bookstore, and I tore into that thing. It was my book. I had never seen an art book before. I didn't know that there were art books for movies, and there weren't actually too many of those. I think these Star Wars art books were some of the first, and for me that just blew my mind a second time. So the movies blew my mind the first time, but the second round of blowing my mind was having a book and seeing, that collected all this artwork, the model work, all this, the craftsmanship and the drawings that went into making these movies. And I realized, right then and there, I wanted to do that. I wanted to do something like that. I knew I wanted to. I wanted my art to be somehow associated with storytelling, and the kind of stories I wanted to tell were, Star Wars type stories. Fantastic locations and really interesting characters and cool technology, and so I went through that book, and I copied a lot of the drawings. I'd get out a sheet of paper and just try and draw as best as I could what those guys, the ship designs that they were doing, the concept sketches that didn't get used, and just tried to emulate the style as best as I could. It was a lot of fun, and it was like my own mini art school for learning how to do concept art when I was in 6th grade. And so if you notice that book, it's just torn apart, and the pages have all come part of the binding, and the pages have been rubbed together so much for me, carrying it around and stuff. That book is a treasure. It's probably one of the oldest books that I have, as far as books that I've that have been in my possession the longest, and I think it's great. So one of the cool things about the Star Wars universe, and this is probably the coolest thing, is that the story doesn't start and end with what you see in the movies. That there's that you're just seeing the tiniest drop of everything that's going on. And the thing I love is every single character has their own story. And they have a name, and they have, a lot of these guys have their own action figure. And I think that's what really drew me to Star Wars, because there might be a background character in He-Man or Thundercats, and they're just filler. But, or even in Indiana Jones or any of the animated movies I've seen, like, the background characters were just place settings. But in the Star Wars universe, the background characters have a home, they have a backstory, they have, there's a reason that they were in the scene at the time that they were. And so I loved, like, exploring that in my imagination, like, who are these characters and what are these guys? Okay, so here's one of my fantasies, and that is to write and draw my own Star Wars graphic novel. Now, this is never going to happen because of two reasons. Number one, I don't really have time to devote to fan fiction. Fan fiction that's not going to pay me on some level. I've got so many, like, paying gigs right now that it'd probably be irresponsible for me to, like, spend time doing something of that sort. Number two, Marvel does Star Wars comics, and they're doing them well. They've got their A-list artists, A-list writers on it. They've got it covered. They don't want to spend time with little Jake Parker and his, like, silly Star Wars fantasy. That said, I've got an idea, and I'm just going to pitch it here because I need to get it out of my system, and I need to just stop thinking about it so I can focus on other things. So here you go. It's taking one of these side characters, these background characters, and this happens a lot. I mean, you'll see comics about these side characters. You'll see novels, where they really flesh out these characters' backstories. This story is about a Gamorrean guard that works for Jabba. Now, he was sold to Jabba to, like, work for him as in his security, and the Gamorrean culture highly values brawn and strength and, like, fighting ability over intelligence. And this Gamorrean is one of the smartest Gamorreans ever born. He's got a super high IQ, and which means he's probably, like, on par with a Han Solo or a Luke, right? But for Gamorrean, he's, like, super, super smart. But he's had to keep it a secret. He's a little bit maybe ashamed of it, or there's a stigma attached to Gamorreans who may think too much. If you win a battle because of strategy or intelligence, that's frowned upon. If you win it because you ripped your opponent's head off, like, that is what's valued. And so he's kept it to himself. But he has these desires to, like, explore the galaxy, to live his own life, and he just hasn't been able to do that until now. He's figured out a way to get out of this situation. For years he's overheard bounty hunters talking about their adventures, talking about all the places they visited, all the money they're making, and he wants that life. And so what happened is these bounty hunters, he overhears these bounty hunters talking about this bounty that Jabba's going to pay, and it's double, triple whatever he's ever paid before. It's like the highest bounty, and he realizes, like, I need to go after this. This is my ticket. I need to go after this guy. Now, for him to escape Jabba is like suicide. It's writing your own death sentence. But he's figured out a way that he can do that. And I haven't figured out how he's going to do this, but he's figured out a way that he can escape Jabba. He does it. He steals, like, one of Jabba's ships, and he goes after this guy. He's got it, he's overheard the other guys' plans, and he knows, like, how he can get around this. So he goes after this guy. Pretty soon he realizes he's in over his head because Boba Fett is after the same guy. Now, Boba Fett, he didn't know was in the mix. Boba Fett is, like, the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy, and pretty soon, like, puts this Gamorrean in his place. And he's like, if I had more time, I would totally, like, turn you into Jabba, but I've got to go after this guy, and I don't want to deal with you. So just get out of my way, and we'll pretend this never happened. So the Gamorrean's, like, dejected. He realizes, like, there's still a way out of this, and so he figures out a way to, like, get in the same room with the bounty, the guy that everyone's after, and basically he traps him in a cantina bathroom, or maybe it's like a fueling station bathroom. He's like, listen, Boba Fett is after you. You've got this ridiculous bounty on your head. There's no way you're getting out of this. But I kind of know everybody's plan. I kind of see what's going on here, and I figured out a way around it. You just have to team up with me and trust me. Somehow he wins over this guy's trust, and basically he tells him, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to turn you in to Jabba. He's going to have to like disguise himself so Jabba doesn't recognize the Gamorrean. But I'm going to turn you into Jabba. I'm going to take the bounty, and then I'm going to like bust you out, because I know that palace, like the back of my hand. I know ways to get guys out. I know exactly what to do. So I'll bust you out. We'll split the bounty 50-50. You go your way, I go my way, and that's that. And so then the rest of the story is like them executing that plan and like barely getting away with it. And the Gamorrean's able to like leave and live his own life, and it's all good. The end. Happy ending. And I think that's it for this session. It was good. It was good to just talk about this stuff. I love Star Wars, and I cannot guarantee that I'm not going to do this again sometime. So if you're a Star Wars fan, maybe that's a thumbs up. That's cool. If you're not a Star Wars fan, just bear with me. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.